Growing up with Sonic, I've gotten to experience many different incarnations of the series throughout different forms of media, portrayed by numerous awesome people. And it's really cool learning what all else they've worked on, almost as if it associates the Sonic franchise with those other things. For me though, one of, if not my absolute favorite incarnation of the series has gotta be none other than the Adventure series. Nostalgia? Maybe, but there's more to it than just that. It resonated with me from the get-go. I'm the Foxboy Axidus, and you can call me Axe, best known for having and sharing Sonic facts, but I also like to share opinions, predictions, and experiences. One such experience was earlier this year, being able to finally meet Sonic voice actors. Now, I know a lot of fans tend to go to panels and meet and greets, and that's cool, but I've always just observed from my home. I really didn't even start having merchandise till about a decade ago, and more recently, which is mostly due to a friend who sends me this stuff. You can find him on YouTube playing through many different games, and usually just enough to give you a taste of the experience before he encourages you to go check it out on your own. Merch aside, I only started going to conventions like at all a small handful of years ago, and it's usually Comic-Con. I've been to the Sonic 25th anniversary party, which was actually the first thing I had ever gone to, and in 2023 I went to the Los Angeles Sonic Symphony, which from what I can tell was one of the best ones so far, with a lot of hype in the crowd, a lot of sentimental feels, and the guest appearance of Kellen Quinn, who ended up participating in the finale song Live and Learn. I was lucky enough that the Sonic Speed Cafe, when it was first opening up, was close to me, and I got to go and check that out. Also, lucky enough to accidentally run into the head of Sonic Team, Takashi Iizuka. Well, this year, another Sonic tuber, JD Frank 20, had signed up to go to the recent Sonic Symphony in San Diego, and so we took the opportunity to meet up at the Sonic Speed Cafe that was opening up again. He had originally told me that he had no plans to record the experience because, well, there were already so many videos of it on YouTube. I told him that it didn't have to be about that and that the recording was from his perspective and therefore a way to hold on to his memory. And I had one request for him, which was to make sure that he had fun and enjoyed the experience. He ended up recording it and posting it to his channel. Great video, by the way, JD Frank. I never got to go see the Dark Rider motorcycle, but while I was in line the next morning at the Sonic Speed Cafe, the motorcycle decided to come and see me, I guess. But I never expected to get to go out and actually stand before and speak to any of the voice actors, least of all, my favorite voice of Sonic, Knuckles, and Shadow. Yes, I know that these days the favorite voices for those characters are the 4Kids voices, Jason Griffith and Dan Green. But for me, it's these guys. I told them that I could meet a celebrity and act perfectly normal, but meeting these three made my brain turn to mush and I got all awkward and cringy, and fortunately they understood. I just really like Ryan's Sonic voice, preferably because it's not a deep voice and it has spunk, and I can't explain it.
Say something, you fake hedgehog! We're counting on you, buddy. The world's greatest treasure hunter. Just letting Knuckles pilot the shuttle on the way over here was more dangerous than you could ever be.
And talking to Ryan Drummond in person, I never expected it. I was born the same year the Sonic first came out.
Were you really?
Yeah, so I've been a fan like my whole life pretty much. I was introduced with Sonic like at a young, before I could even understand how to play it right.
Yeah.
And then learning to draw, like I drew Sonic and Tails. And
That's impressive. I have no drawing ability at all, so that's impressive to me.
and now I'm actually trying to do animation and stuff too. So with Dorian Nelson?
Yeah.
I asked him because before they made Sonic and Tails R, I was already friends with him online, and I was like, hey, is it okay with you if I try to do an animation for the stuff that you guys did? And he's like, yeah, it won't be like the animation. You guys can
Dorian's
watch.
my boy. Yeah,
And
in fact,
Dorian, yeah, you say the sign is awesome.
I was telling Dorian that I needed a sign. Or no, I had a sign for when I have to leave the table for a minute. and he made me, in about 5 minutes, he made me that.
Nice. Meeting you guys is a big deal, though. And I'm actually really excited that you guys are becoming more active, too. I was like, whoa, they're just popping up all of a sudden.
Well, we're so glad that all three of us could be here for you
And
today.
I haven't seen him, like, active on socials that much at all until recently.
Yeah, well, you know, we actually hired an appearance manager last year, and we've been working with Jason and also Pete Capella, the voice of Silver.
Yeah.
Lisa Ortiz, the voice of Amy, as far as everything else goes.
That was the other thing
They
is...
contacted me, and I contacted these two because they've been my friends for 25 years.
That's
Said,
awesome.
hey, we're all signed up with this team, and they sent us out. Are you interested? And they were like, yeah, let's do it.
I know you two were friends since before Sonic,
Yeah.
but were you friends with him before Sonic as well?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So the original cast was just all like, hey, we already know each other before other things, and that to me that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so like one of the things too is that the fact that you guys are mingling more with like the 4Kids Sonic cast too, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is so cool. See,
Well, we ended up, actually, Jason and I ended up at Sonic Revolution in Los Angeles last
Right.
year together. And even he and I were surprised because we had always heard our whole lives that people either grew up in my era or his era.
right?
And we never really realized until that day how many people came up in both. And it was a lot of crossovers. You know, people started playing the games that I worked on and then went to playing the games that he worked on.
Right.
And so we started doing things together, and the response has been nothing but awesome.
And I think it's also trippy too how like a lot of you have voiced multiple characters.
Yeah.
So like you voiced Shadow briefly.
Right,
You
for a
explained
second.
why.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
you
no, it
voiced.
wasn't me.
Oh, it was.
No, it was.
What is the name
Remember
you
the
used?
alias? Sean Silver.
Sean Silver. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. Because it was the first time I heard you talk about the alias. So I was
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
and then you voiced Knuckles as well, which
Yeah.
also like you're like at least my third favorite Knuckles if that counts for anything.
Nice.
Idris Elba I count as a separate category because it's
Yeah.
just such a different thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Hey everybody, I'm standing here with this fox, and you might wonder who it is. It's my good buddy Axidus. We're here in Carlsbad, California, at the Ninja Exchange, and we go back a long way, me and this fox. So have fun! Yeah!
I had already liked Knuckles' voice in Sonic Adventure 2, like a lot. In fact, I liked it even more than his own voice in Sonic Heroes. I also liked Dan Green when he started off, and I liked Travis Willingham's evolution of Dan Green's take to be a bit less hoarse and gruff, especially in Sonic Boom, oddly enough, despite the comedic approach. It's a shame he was replaced with Dave Mitchell, but Dave is doing pretty good as well, continuing where Travis left off. I can't even factor Idris Elba into this, as I state in a conversation somewhere around here, but Knuckles' smooth-spoken voice was my favorite for being the opposite of what they try to do with Knuckles nowadays. He may be tough and hot-headed, but when those traits aren't the focus, he is a patient and chill guy. I mean, you kinda have to be in order to be on post your entire life guarding a rock on an empty island, doing nothing, all day, every day. Meeting Ryan Drummond was crazy enough. I simply never expected to see Scott Dreyer in my lifetime. He was so soft-spoken, it's actually kind of hard to hear him in the recording. Because I wanted to let you know that you're also my favorite Knuckles voice actor. I was letting Ryan know this, like, specifically you three are like my favorites of those characters. Like if it was like,
It means so much to me.
it was like, you know, and I've been waiting for Knuckles to sound like you again, you know, and they're getting closer to that again.
Yeah.
Idris Elba doesn't count. That's his own thing, you know. It's
Yeah.
pretty good. And I do like the other Knuckleses too, so I'm not dissing them. Just throwing that out
That
there.
means so much. Yeah, I got this job because Ryan recommended me. We used to look like each other. We used to sound like each other. My own family members got us confused. I had a national Foot Locker commercial running. He had a Padre commercial running, and my aunt called and said, "I saw your commercial," and I was like, "You saw my Foot Locker commercial?" She said, "No, I saw your Padre commercial." I was like, "I'm not in a Padre commercial." And then we met each other, and he originally voiced Knuckles, Sonic, and Shadow. They wanted different actors to do them, and they brought me in for Shadow. And they wanted me to voice match Ryan. So all day long, I made my voice sound like him. David came in as well. David didn't sound like him, and they said, "Let's have David be Shadow." But I was so bummed because that day, everybody's like, "You sound exactly like him." I'm like, I win, right? That means I get the part. But they said to me at the end of the casting, they said, we're not going to give it to you because you sounded too much like him. But I got to tell you something, Scott. We hired you. When you walked in the room, the entire panel, all the producers from Japan said, that's our Knuckles. So I was meant to be Knuckles, and I don't take that lightly.
You made a message with David Humphrey maybe a couple years ago, or a year ago.
For Thanksgiving, you're right.
And whenever I saw, I was like, he does kind of have a similar like face and expression to Ryan Drummond, and the way he normally talks. You guys sound similar, and it's funny because he did voice Knuckles at one point, and he voiced Shadow briefly at one point. But then now David also voiced Knuckles recently for the Sonic and Tails R thing, which. Personally, I was a little bit disappointed by just because I would like to have heard him as Shadow, and I would have liked to have heard you as Knuckles. And I was like, okay, it's still cool that they got everyone back for that project, though.
And for me, we recorded early in the morning when my voice was nice and low, so that I was miles away from Ryan, because our natural timbres are the same. So like I'm going to do a line for you right now. Hey guys, long time no see. Must have got lost in the lines. Searching for these pieces of the emerald, master emerald, harder than I thought. So everything had to be lower,
right?
That part of my voice, and then when I got excited, I would have to be like, shift, rock, yeah! Like I'd have to keep everything a little lower.
By the way, about that line. I'm not gonna mention the joke because everybody always talks about that, but like, and I heard you mention it before about doing two versions of it. But I was joking with a friend once that Shift Rock, yeah, sounds like it could be like a band or a radio station or something like that.
Should, right? I think the three of us should get back together and we should make a band. We all sing Shift Rock, yeah.
Yeah, call it Shift Rock. Hey, you can take the idea. I don't know.
Yeah. But you're right. They made me do two versions of that. So we had a PG version if people wanted to hear Shift Rock, yeah, and we had the G version if they want to say Shift Rock, yeah. So people ask me all the time, which is it? And I always say both. They just made me silence that F a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you're like, oh no, you're still saying
a lot
it
right now, aren't you?
Yeah, this is good information right here. And I've also been really excited too, just to see that you were more active on social media too, because I hadn't really seen you a whole lot over the years. And I was like, he's talking again. Like this is awesome.
I've wanted to do this for a long time. I just couldn't figure out the right. It had to be the perfect scenario. And the very first one I got to do with Ryan. Ryan said, "Do this with me." And today is David's very first appearance. So we're all sort of helping each other. So this is the first time the three of us have been in the same room in almost 20 years.
Oh, that's amazing. How does it feel being succeeded by Idris Elba?
I love him. I think he's such a great actor, and I love that he's finding his own way.
Do you know the way?
Oh, and I made sure to shout out Houston. For those of you who don't know, Houston he's the biggest Knuckles simp on the Hedgehog Zone.
But with that said, I am interested because if you do have any Knuckles merchandise, I'd love to know more about what you have.
So this is for you, Houston.
Hey Houston, thanks for looking out for me, man. I think it's time for a Knuckles sandwich.
But Shadow, especially in Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow has one of the coolest and most unique voices. I like Jason Griffith's Shadow voice as well, but I can see this voice being used for any dark and edgy character. On top of which, his Shadow voice has changed a few times.
I possess far too much power to be anything but the real thing.
Don't talk to me about fair! Not after what happened here!
Who am I? And why can't I remember anything?
Brace yourself, Knave the Hedgehog.
Take the emerald and go on without me.
And most of all, while it's cool that he can voice Sonic and Shadow, I do hear Sonic in his Shadow voice, so that sometimes it sounds like Sonic impersonating Shadow.
Sorry, friend, but I'm taking over. After all, we wouldn't want you to hurt yourself, now would we?
I think, honestly, if he just voiced Shadow and someone else voiced Sonic, it wouldn't be an issue.
We've got some time. Let's have some fun.
Stop losing focus. The entire world is at stake.
Chill out, Shadow.
But regardless, David Humphrey's Shadow voice isn't just my favorite Shadow voice, it's my favorite voice of the entire series.
Now, I will show the glorious achievement of what the world's leading scientist, Professor Gerald, has created.
So meeting David Humphrey, without a doubt, was one of the most awesome things for me.
And I'm not saying just to be like flattering or anything, but you are specifically my favorite voice, like in the whole series.
Well, thank you.
As Shadow. Why? Because it was a very unique voice.
But that was one of my things, is that I will always be the original.
Right.
And it's so cool to be a part of this
And
series.
Keanu Reeves is voicing Shadow now, right? And so in a way that's kind of cool. You're succeeded by Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, so what I'm picturing him is trying to copy what
I mean, I hope so.
I do too.
See, that's the thing is like, that's my only worry actually was that like I like Keanu Reeves a lot, but I'm like, but does he sound like David Humphrey?
That's right.
Whereas your Shadow voice, I've only ever heard with Shadow, and I'm like, it has like this suave to it, right? And I'm like, how did you come up with that voice? Like,
Yeah, I think it was with a lot of help of how they wanted the character to be. That he was, there was a dark side to him, but he also has heart.
right.
And I tried a lot of different things, and that's how we came up with the voice. Just did a lot of levels and made it work out.
And there's a lot of emotion to it too.
Absolutely.
A lot of like style and has anyone ever told you it also sounds like there's like a slight accent as well?
Yeah, I have gotten that a few times.
'Cause I remember thinking that too. Like he sounds like he has like almost like a mild like English accent or something,
Interesting, yeah.
which I also
Back
liked.
to listen to him,
It's hard for me to talk, man. It's just so cool meeting
No, it's
you.
really cool meeting you. You're doing just fine talking to me. You're great.
I've always wondered that ever since I watched Press Start, which
Okay,
I've seen that like David Humphrey voiced in this animation. I was like, that's crazy.
Well, that was in the very beginning, and so it was just getting that going, and I wanted to get my name and my voice out there even more.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons I did it. So.
But wait, there's more. There was also a fourth voice actor here, and that voice actor was none other than John St. John. In case you're unaware, this man was behind the voice of, I believe, E102 Gamma, as well as our favorite character, Big the Cat! He was also the voice of Omega in Sonic Heroes, and while the competition is less fierce for these characters, I gotta say, these were still my favorite voices for these characters too. I'm less strict on them, of course, and some cool people have voiced Big and Omega since then. I mean, did you know that Big is currently voiced by Kyle Hebert? Who's that? That's this guy!
No, I want to kill you.
Let's go, Akamaru!
And maybe the guy just likes cutesy stuff. Different strokes for different folks, Night Eye.
You really thought because you had me outnumbered, you could crush me?
As for John St. John, why, he's actually well known for the voice of a pretty major character as well from another series, Duke Nukem. It's a game from quite some time ago that eventually received a sequel a couple decades later due to the impact that it left.
Nice to meet you. Sorry, I get stuck in that voice. I can't help it.
That's right. So, I was gonna ask you something too. Like, are you guys gonna be doing? Oh, you can't tell me that. Never mind. I can't ask you questions.
I have an NDA in place right now, but I can tell you.
It just came naturally. I already know I can't even ask questions.
You'll like this. I have recorded a whole bunch, 200 plus Duke Nukem lines for a game coming out in July.
Oh, okay.
It's not a Duke Nukem game.
Okay.
Duke is being put into it. Remember Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition?
Okay.
How they put Duke into that game?
Right.
Duke's being placed in another game that'll be out in July. That's all I can tell you about it.
But yeah, so like I enjoyed your voices, Big the Cat, Omega, and Gamma. And I know you mentioned before that it's not really doing a whole lot, but it still kind of is, you know.
I'm surprised by how many Big the Cat fans there are out there.
Look, see, well, here's what happened is people didn't like Big the Cat, right? But then it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, look, Big the Cat, if you think about it, the character, like, he went through all of this to save his friend, and he's just a normal guy.
To save my froggy, my little buddy's not looking so good.
And see, I've impersonated your voice before, so this is kind of weird.
Hey, wait a minute. You swallowed my lucky charm.
All the characters, actually. I've impersonated all those character voices before. I'm like...
Now preparing to fight. Critical error.
So I didn't expect to ever kind of like meet you guys. And for me, it's a big deal. I don't usually get like starstruck or anything. So I bet like if I actually met like an actual like actor, I'd probably be like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. This is pretty cool. But seeing you guys, because it's part of like my childhood and stuff, then it's like a bigger deal. So
well, that's nice. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Now, normally this type of video on my own is something I would normally post in Sonic Facts, and I felt the same way actually about a video I did on the Hedgehog Zone regarding the Shadow Prologue animation. where I said it would be cool if Johnny Young Bosch voiced Shadow, and how coincidentally Stephanie Shea was now voicing Maria. The coincidence being because they're both main characters from Bleach. Wow, a lot of Sonic Bleach crossover this take, huh? But I felt like the Hedgehog Zone had more of a name to reference, so I also ended up getting this.
Welcome to the Hedgehog Zone. Welcome to the Hedgehog Zone.
Hey, everyone, welcome to the Hedgehog Zone. Aw, yeah!
And with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. My experiences that I wanted to share, I just wanted to get that out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next video. Toodles!
I'm out of here.